Hey, SongTown, I'm Clay Mills here with Marty, Dodson. Today we're talking about 10 signs you're overthinking your songwriting. If this sounds like you, stick around for the end where we're going to give you our fixes that we use every day in the songwriting world.
Awesome. You want to kick us off? What's number one?
Number one, I think my biggest thing would be learning instead of using your intellect, use your Auralect.
Whoa, that's a big word.
That's a new term.
Yeah.
I think I made it up. What I mean by that is learning to trust your ear, your Auralect, because your instincts that your ear has when you're hearing a melody before you write it, it often knows better. It comes from a deeper place than you sitting there going, well, I think on the four chord, I'm going to sing the third on the scale against it. And then I'm going to do a quick rhythm pattern of line plus three. And then I'm going to, like, if it becomes too much of an intellectual, kind of process, then we're getting away from that deeper musical place.
Absolutely.
The intellect gets into something that I think, could easily copy, where your Auralect comes from a place where I think comes deeper in your soul, somewhere that's instinctual.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, one of the first things would be if your songs are too convoluted and complex. So if you play your songs for people and they go, what? Or they misunderstand them,
So they really, by you saying too confusing, I've heard songs like that where I don't quite know what to feel, because am I supposed to feel this way or this way? Because the song's just about so many different things, right?
Yeah. So that can be a sign that you're overthinking if your songs are too complex and complicated.
Yeah. Another big sign is if you have a lot of unfinished songs. So I know people that will email me and say, I just don't know how to finish. I've got 300 songs that I've started and I can't finish them. That might be a sign you're overthinking.
Absolutely.
And I know I started, years ago, I started like that where I could never seem to quite finish. And there's a lot of reasons we can talk about that. But yeah, that would be one clue, I would think.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you think about it, I've had somebody recently tell me I've got about 300 unfinished songs, and I thought, well, what if I change you to a desk and said you can't escape here until you finish one of those songs? You'd finish it.
Yeah.
It might not be great, but you'd finish it, And so I think sometimes people don't know how to bring a song home, maybe, and that's the problem. But I think most often it's that they're just overthinking it. They're making it too hard.
Yeah. And that leads us to the next one, right? Nicely.
Yeah. Number 4 is option paralysis. And this happens to me when I write by myself. So sometimes I'll write by myself and I'll write 12-second verses or just 12 verses in general. And I'll go, which one's the best one? I can't decide, and I just get this option paralysis because I've given myself too many ways to go with it instead of just picking one and confidently going with it. So if you find yourself in that option paralysis, you're probably overthinking.
Yeah. The next one for me is perfectionism. And I think that's a big one for me as well when I write by myself, because I get bogged down trying to make every line as good as it can be. And everything's got to be perfect. Should I take this word out? And it becomes way overthinking. So early on, I figured out a way for me to get out of that is co-writing with someone who was the complete opposite. And it was kind of balanced us out where I would say, well, do you think it should be this or that? And they're like, no, I love that line. And it kind of gave me the freedom to just relax and move on and keep the flow going. Then once I do that for a few co-writes, then I can sit down by myself and I've got that flow back. But sometimes when I'm just writing a lot of songs by myself, it's just, I get stuck.
Yeah. The next one for me, I think, would be procrastination. Like if I find myself going, hey, I need to go finish that song I'm working on for this play, but first let me go do the laundry, then I find other excuses to do other things. It's usually because I'm overthinking it. I'm not anxious to get back into it because I've been in some of these other things, the perfectionism or the option paralysis, and so not as excited
Mm.
about getting back to it. So if you find yourself procrastinating, you're probably thinking too hard.
Yeah. For me, another big sign is the comparison game. When I'm comparing, whether it's comparing my songs to someone else's or my success to someone else's, whatever that means, or just social media is horrible for this. Like, you go, well, this person's out there playing all these songwriter nights and these shows here at this big theater and what am I doing? And you start comparing yourself and you get all in your head. I think that really blocks your creativity. I mean, you said one time it's like you can't compare yourself to someone else's highlight reel.
Right.
And what somebody's putting on social media is their highlight reel,
Yeah.
And so it's a very dangerous trap to fall into.
Number 8 for me is trying to impress, especially trying to impress other songwriters.
Yeah.
So every now and then I'll do a mentoring session and I'll say, hey, this line's really confusing. And they'll be like, oh, I thought you'd really think that was cool, and they were writing the line to impress me, not to write something great, from their heart.
We call that's a songwriter line, meaning it sounds like a songwriter wrote it. It sounds written.
Yeah.
And it's cool, it's clever, it's brilliant, but it really doesn't belong in the song.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you find yourself just writing something to try to impress somebody, it's probably overthinking.
Yeah.
What's number 9?
Writer's block.
Ooh.
So if you find yourself having writer's block, I think for me is that I'm all in my head and I put this impossible bar of where I think from this moment, I mean, I may just be starting a song and already I write one line of the melody and go, well, that doesn't sound like a great melody. I've heard that before. And you get so caught up in overthinking it that you end up not being able to write anything at all. And I think writer's block, as we often talk about, is really just about setting the bar too high. And you've got to lower that bar and just write, and see what comes out. You don't know what's going to come out. If you could predict, today I'm going to sit down and this is going to be a fantastic song, kind of take the fun out of it because we don't know. Some days we sit down and it's okay. Some days, but wow, once, twice a year, something magical happens. Like, where did that come from? That's the beauty of it.
I was writing with a co-writer one day, the day that our song went number 1. So we were writing a new song on this day, and our song just went number 1. And I go in thinking, oh, this is going to be such an awesome day. We're celebrating. The first words out of my co-writer's mouth was, how are we going to beat it? How are we going to top it? And like he was so worried the whole day about, oh, that's not as good as our number 1, and I don't think we got anything that day.
That's not the attitude you had, I'm guessing, when you wrote that number 1 song.
No, not at all. So that kind of thing, putting undue pressure on yourself can be a killer. Number 10 is if you get no emotional reaction to your songs, they're probably intellectual exercises as opposed to heart exercises. So if you play this song about, losing this person that you cared so much about and people just kind of look at you and continue eating their dinner or drinking their drink, whatever, then you probably made it into an intellectual exercise. So, you want, when you play something for someone, you want an emotional, physical reaction from them. And if you're not getting that, then you're probably...
I want them dancing on the table, kicking their plates off the table because they're so excited.
Exactly. Let's talk about fixes.
Yes, I got one.
All right.
For me, the golden rule is I don't try to fix something unless I have a clear understanding why it needs fixing. So if I'm reading back over the lyric or I'm listening back to the melody, if I don't hear something and go, oh, wait a minute, the melody here is the verse lines start on the same note every time. And then I get to the chorus and I start on that same note again. Okay, I've got to change something. Let me go fix the chorus. If I don't have some clear idea, then I don't tend to want to change it because what happens, you just get bogged down in possibilities. We get the option paralysis. Yeah. So I think if I have a clear reason to change something, then I do that. But I don't mess around with stuff going, I just don't know. It just doesn't feel right. I mean, and if that's the case, I like to come back a week later and see how it hits me, if it feels right. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you write something, it feels great, and you come back a week later and like, what was I thinking?
Exactly.
And then sometimes the opposite happens. So
Yeah. Yeah. If there's a line in my song and I go, oh, you know what? That line could be offensive to somebody. That's a good reason to change it,
Yeah.
But just going in and going, well, this
unless
could be
it's an
this,
offensive
or
song.
this could be this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's intended to offend,
Yeah.
know. But that's a whole different thing, having that reason for the change as opposed to just changing it to change it.
Yeah.
The second one for me would be that your first draft does not have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Just giving yourself permission. You mentioned this a while ago of, just finish the thing. And you can come back and make it great. We're not advocating writing mediocre songs.
No.
But we are saying that it doesn't have to be perfect in the first draft.
Right.
And so if you can give yourself permission to, and one of the things I do in one of my master classes is I ask people to write something so simple that I'm going to tell them it's boring. And I think only one time in the whole history of my master classes have I told them it's boring. What happens is they say exactly what they intend to say in the song. It's super clear. Everybody gets it, and it works
People
great.
feel it more
Yeah.
when it's clear and honed in on the emotion. They know how to feel when they hear it.
Yeah. So just letting yourself write a first draft that's simple, just communicates what you want to communicate, can be a great way to get out of that kind of overthinking mindset. And just let yourself do it. Come back later, make it perfect.
Yeah. My next fix would be just set a timer. It goes into what you were saying. Allow yourself 60 minutes, take an hourglass and flip it over, and no matter what, you're going to finish that song. You can always go back and go tomorrow and say, I really like the chorus, but let me see if I could rewrite the verses or whatever it needs. But the point is just to get that flow going.
Yeah. My first poster used to joke with me sometimes, and he would say, is that a 3:00 line or a 10:30 line? And what he meant was, were you just trying to get out of the room?
Later in the day.
Yeah, later in the day, you're just trying to beat traffic.
Trying to beat traffic home.
Yeah, exactly.
That's says, that's the factory songwriter mentality, is like, time's almost here, we got to quit, you don't want to fall into that.
Point being, if you're taking an hour or whatever your time limit, if you got till 3:00, just finish it and you can come back later. He would have me go back and look at those 3:00 lines, to make sure that they were great and that they worked.
What's your next one?
The next one for me would be stepping away. I think most of the time we don't solve a problem by staring at the problem. So if we can just go, you know what? I'm kind of feeling stuck. I think I'm overthinking this. Let me just go for a walk. Let me go get a cup of coffee. Let me go talk to somebody for a little while, and then I'll come back to it. A lot of times when I come back to it, I have fresh eyes and ears, and I can fix it pretty easily and get out of that.
Yeah, that goes nicely into what I was going to say for my last fix of the day, co-writing. And so how you were stepping away so you could come in with a fresh idea. Well, when you're co-writing, you get stuck and your co-writer has a fresh idea. So it's very similar process.
Yeah.
But I think that it's much harder to get stuck when you have another person in the room or two other people you're writing with. And 3 heads make better than one.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Man, it's been great. Like, comment, subscribe. If you'd like to hear more of this, it really helps us deliver more quality work to you. Cheers, y'all.
See you soon.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you appreciate the content, hit the subscribe button and help us grow. Shout out to Sweetwater Music. It's where Marty and I get all our musical gear. Great people. We'll see you guys around town. Right on.